Get back in control with Off the Wagon, adventures in emotional eating, health, and weight loss. Each episode containing fork-sized mindset tweaks, perspective shifts, and lifestyle hacks to get you back on the wagon. Whether it's habit change, emotional eating, addictions, weight loss, willpower, or relationships, there's something here for you. So let's get on the wagon and get down the road to your goals with me, Christy R. Hall. Welcome to episode 49, where today we're going to be talking about off-plan eating, body bullying, and body shame, how to deal with those behaviors, and also how to deal with and prevent any self-punishment that comes as a result of those behaviors. Even though I know I've touched on a few of these topics before, I picked them specifically because they often go hand in hand, and around the holidays, many of us have a tendency to fall off the wagon or have some sort of unplanned eating adventure. So this time, right after Thanksgiving, seems like the perfect time to address your feelings about your decisions, any punishments you may be considering or are already inflicting on yourself, and the resulting body shame and even self-hatred that sometimes follows unplanned eating behavior. And so, like I said, there are 3 topics for us today: off-plan eating, body bullying, and self-punishment. So let's get started with off-plan eating. You might also call it diet damning. You might also call it giving yourself a cheat beating. But no matter what you call it, basically, it's making yourself feel bad for eating the food you eat. What it looks like is whenever you do a bit of unplanned eating, you feel guilty. And so you talk down to yourself and make yourself feel bad about it. And unplanned is a bit of a misnomer, really, because we have to be brutally honest here. We are in control. We decide what to put in our mouths and what to swallow. The moment we decide to imbibe it, it becomes part of the plan, even if it hadn't been a few moments before. But still, for our purposes, when I talk about unplanned eating, I mean things we didn't intend to eat, or things we hadn't planned on doing. As an example, if you are following a Whole30 plan or lifestyle, your intention would be to not have sugar or alcohol. So if you do have those items when you hadn't planned to, that would be off-plan or unplanned. Or if you are following a ketogenic lifestyle, then your plan likely doesn't include platefuls of pasta. So if that's something you've done, that might be considered off-plan, or what I also call off-road eating adventures. That all said, the truth is that for whatever reason, we sometimes choose to go off-plan or abandon our intentions. In spite of whatever we feel afterwards, in that moment, for whatever reason, we don't care because we want it. And so that's the decision we choose to make. We disregard our plan, we disregard our goals, and sometimes even break promises that we've made to ourselves. But after you made that choice, right, the moment on the lips, then you remember, you come back to your senses. You promised yourself that you wouldn't do that. Or your fingers swell up so much you can't operate the remote control anymore. Or you're sitting on the couch groaning like a walrus, wishing you had worn stretchy pants. And then the guilt starts, the chatter in your head, berating yourself for being weak, having no willpower, telling yourself that you'll never master your eating habits, that you'll never reach your health and wellness goals. But this is important, so pay attention, and I want to say it up front. Even if your eating behavior wasn't what you intended, even if it's the worst it's ever been, you are not bad. You are not a weak person. You are still valuable as a human being. You have worth. You are not a failure. You are not hopeless, and you are still enough. So where does the guilt come from? The feelings of guilt come from a problem or a disconnect in your mindset That is, you're approaching your food as if it were a trial or some sort of exam, an all or nothing test that you must pass 100% or ultimately fail. And this is not really how life is, and it's certainly not how you should approach eating. Seriously, you're going to be eating probably every day of your life, so the opportunity for something to slip in or for you to slip up is real and tangible. And I understand most of the time we've chosen to embark on this health journey to resolve some sort of health concern, crisis, or issue. And every time we make one of these unplanned off-road eating adventures, we delay ourselves from getting to our destination. But let's be realistic. Resolving health concerns, even releasing unwanted weight, isn't like crossing a finish line where you do it once and you never have to do it again. Managing that health concern or your weight or your blood sugar, that takes daily effort. So there's not really a destination per se. When you think about these choices as cheating, you're reinforcing this idea that your behavior is wrong or bad, that you've been naughty. And usually when we've been bad, we feel we need to be punished or do some sort of penance in order to pay for that act. But generally, once you get past a certain age, punishments and even the threat of punishment is only going to get you so far. That's not to say that the guilt and regret can't be useful. They can, in fact, prevent you from doing these actions again, which is actually what they're designed to do, but only if you think about it in advance. When you think about how guilty you're going to feel, or how bloated, or how disappointed that you left yourself down, you decrease the chances that you're going to give in. So what do we do about it? Actually, we have two choices really, or three if you count doing nothing and continuing on as you are. But I'm guessing if you're listening, that chances are that you don't really want to continue doing what you're doing. So then your choices are to either remove the guidelines, the rules, the restrictions, and the judgments that make a food or an eating episode bad, so that you don't have to make yourself feel guilty for indulging. Option number 2, and this is your big or, is to leverage those bad feelings to prevent those kinds of eating opportunities or episodes. Believe it or not, there's no one right way to do this, and I've seen both ways work for people. It's really about you and how you feel. Are you more motivated by the threat of punishment, or are you more motivated by reward? Most people are, to some degree, motivated by both, but have a natural bent towards one or the other. If you're more interested in avoiding punishment, then leveraging your guilt and regret may be the better option. While if you're more motivated by reward, then perhaps letting go of the rules and guidelines and food labels is your best option. Is your goal to stop eating certain foods or in certain ways because they're perhaps unhealthy? Or is your goal to let go of the definitions around food that make certain foods off limits and craveable? Each methodology can have a place in your journey. Take some time to decide which way you think will work for you, and don't be afraid to switch sides if one way isn't working for you. Personally, I've found that one of the best ways is to use a combination of both, releasing some rules and guidelines and labels so that my lifestyle or way of eating is more freeing, but then to also make it a point to think about how I'm going to feel whenever I make a choice to eat something or make a certain decision, so that I can use and leverage how I think I'm going to feel after I've done it to decide whether or not it really should be done. So for example, if I'm going to eat a piece of cake, if I already know or am thinking that I'm going to feel guilty about it, or that it's probably going to make my fingers swell up, or it's going to make me feel puffy or bloated, or I'm going to struggle with cravings or something like that. When I think about those kinds of things, that helps me not make that choice. And that's beneficial. Even though there's no food that's off limits, even though there's no restrictions around food, I still have that choice and get to decide for myself based on how it makes me feel whether or not I want to do that. And I think that that's how these two modes of thinking or methodologies can work to the best benefit. If you want to find out more about which way you lean, I'm including a link to a questionnaire in the resources section of the podcast page. You can download it and fill it out for more insight. So now let's talk about body bullying or body shame as it's related to off-planned eating behavior. Body bullying is more or less the same thing as body shame, and body shaming comes down to poor body image, and it's based on how we see our bodies when we look in the mirror. It's unfortunate, but our minds show us what we believe we should be seeing. These images in our heads are often formed by messages that we've received or created about what a healthy or desirable body should look like. A lot of times those messages and those images are created by photoshopped images that have been modified to the point that they're no longer realistic, or messages that we've received from others. Regardless, holding your body up to an impossible standard is a form of body shaming or body bullying. Every day of our lives, we're inundated with this idea that our bodies are supposed to fit a specific mold and look like this or look like that. And we develop these images in our minds of what the perfect physical body is supposed to look like. Granted, there's more than one type, and your idea may not match someone else's, but you get the idea. And what many of us find aesthetically pleasing to the eye may not be a form that our bodies are actually physically capable of taking on. And so when we measure ourselves up against those unrealistic images, we find ourselves lacking. Then we start beating ourselves up for not meeting those standards. We mentally talk down to and berate ourselves. We may force ourselves to excessive lengths, doing lots of exercise or participating in very strict dieting protocols, or even resorting to surgeries in an attempt to be at peace with our bodies. But where does it come from? Again, we receive these messages every day from friends, from family, from advertising, from shop windows. Sometimes it's accidental, sometimes it's on purpose. These messages don't have to be direct or even intentionally mean. They can be indirect and unintentional. We learn by watching others and how they react. For example, when we heard our parents talk about our bulimic friend, or when a friend of our older brother made comments about our developing bodies, or that time we went shopping with our mother or our older sister, and they commented on how clothing looked and how they felt about their bodies. All of those comments and interactions, even if they weren't directed at us, informed how we learned to see our bodies, as well as those belonging to the people around us. We learned that little bumps and bulges deserve ridicule, and people with excess weight are lazy, and people with large breasts are sluts. Of course, none of the statements I just made about people are true. They are stereotypes, and they are examples of the kinds of body shaming and bullying that you may have been exposed to. But even if you didn't pick up your body shaming behavior from your parents or caregivers, because not all of us do, it's important to realize that body shaming is everywhere. It's pervasive, and most of all, it can be very covert, and chances are you've got some form of body shaming programming installed in you, whether you realize it or not. Body shaming isn't limited to what's known as fat shaming. Body shaming has little to do with weight or excess body fat, really, and is really more of a general message that your body isn't good enough, whatever its shape, whatever its size. Personally, I think that the whole body image model and mold is problematic because over time, what was the in way to look goes out, and then you're in a position to be unhappy with yourself for a whole other set of reasons. I mean, there was a time when curvy, voluptuous forms were in vogue, and I don't mean the magazine, but they were in there too. And then there was a whole other period where extremely thin with no hips or breasts, kind of a boy look, was very in. And even now, depending on the circles that you travel in and the kinds of people that you follow on social media, you may be drawn to accepting and even wanting one type of body over another. So, how do you know if you are shaming yourself? You may criticize your appearance based on comparisons that you're making between yourself and someone else. You may feel hatred towards yourself or feel poor self esteem because you're ashamed of your body. You may criticize other people's bodies, either in front of them or behind their backs, or even just in your head. You may go from diet to diet instead of focusing on proper and healthy nutrition or eating habits. You may refuse to allow yourself to have any kind of indulgence or treat. You may idolize a celebrity or a social media icon whom you believe has the perfect body. You may think little of others who you think are too fat or too skinny or too tall or too short, or have freckles, imperfect teeth, different hairstyles, or just a strange sense of fashion. But what do we do about it? So today I want to start by working on our own internal body shame and bullying first. Technically, this may seem like the more daunting task when compared to external sources of body shame. However, when you start to see your body through the eyes of compassion and even love, it gets easier to stand up for yourself and defend your body against the external forces of body shame. And the truth of the matter is that no body is going to fit society's model of perfection because there's no actual, real perfect. Your definition of perfect is not my definition of perfect, and it may not match somebody else's definition of perfect. And that's why there are Photoshop artists, because even the ones we think are perfect aren't really. It's important to realize that your body image, how you feel about your body, will have a profound impact on your relationships, because how you feel about your body will change the activities that you're willing to participate in, the things that you're willing to wear, the places you're willing to go, how comfortable you are around others and even strangers, and even how much or little you enjoy sexual intimacy. And the effects of poor body image are very far reaching, and so that's why we want to start here. Step one is to understand that we all have that inner voice. It helps us to solve complex problems, reminds us when something is a bad idea, and shoots insults at us whenever we step out of line. It's time to develop our interpersonal relationship and work on loving ourselves. And you may be at odds with that inner voice, but that voice is you. So start a dialogue with it the next time it pipes up. When it says, "I hate my fat thighs," thank it for its opinion. Express how those negative statements make you feel, and then remind it of whatever you're doing to resolve the situation. It might sound something like this: "Thank you for your opinion, although it really hurts my feelings when you say such mean things to me. After all, I'm trying to do this new toning workout that's supposed to help, and I feel myself getting stronger." Or that little voice says, "That little lump of flab is disgusting. You're disgusting. You should be ashamed you let yourself get this way." And you can simply say, "Yes, I do have some regrets about my actions and what I've done in my past, but honestly, it makes me feel sad when you talk to me that way. I know you're just trying to help, but those kinds of words aren't helpful. Some things I can do something about, some things I can't. Can you maybe support me in trying to change the things I can?" Obviously, these are just examples, and you can take it further, and you can say whatever you want. Just understand that if you wouldn't say it to your best friend, your mother, your baby brother or sister, then you probably shouldn't be saying it to yourself. Step 2 is to deal with the body hate and shame head on. When we're ashamed of our bodies, we try to hide it, so it's time to stop. Hiding can take the form of wearing unnecessary layers, choosing to forego a night out with friends or not dating because you feel unworthy or something like that. One of the best exercises I have for this is what we call mirror work. This can be a little bit daunting and even jarring and even scary. So if you have to, take it in small steps. But how it works is get in front of a full-length mirror or the largest one that you can find and strip down to your skivvies. Notice when you start judging. Notice the negative thoughts. When you have them, stop undressing and just look at that part or piece or bulge or whatever it is. So if you get your shirt off and nothing's happening, everything's fine, continue on. You take off your pants or your skirt, but then you start judging your thighs. Stop there. Notice the part. Notice the thoughts. Our goal here is to try and find compassion or love or even acceptance for that part. So simply put your hand over that part or that place and say something like, I'm sorry. I apologize for my part in anything I've done that caused this. It was never my intention to hurt or harm you. We want to start with an apology because it usually will soften any anger or hatred towards that part. And taking ownership for whatever your part is, known or unknown, in how your body is manifesting for you now, eliminates resistance. But just see how and if the feelings towards that part change. You can continue saying you're sorry or even talk to the part if you want. Just stay with it. Don't move on until you feel a shift in the emotions or a softening towards it. If you're brave and you want to take this self-love exercise to the next level, you can get a pen or a marker or even your eyeliner or lipstick out. Then in front of the mirror on the part that you're specifically addressing, write, I love you on that part. And then feel love. Generate a sense of it and send it to that part. Continue working with the unliked or unloved parts of your body until you can feel a sense of compassion for yourself and for your body. Realize that every lump and bump, every curve and sway are a part of you. And when you reject a part, you reject all. Just to share, I've actually done this exercise on myself because I have a lot of those same lumps and bumps that everyone, hates on their own bodies. And I've had a lot of anger and even violent, masochistic even thoughts towards my body. And I had to do this same exercise. And I occasionally will still have moments where I look in the mirror and I don't like it. But doing this exercise has created a place of compassion so that when I see it, I realize in my younger years, when I didn't know, when I didn't have the knowledge, I did things that created this, right? We've all done things that created stretch marks or scars or, wrinkles, sunspots, gray hairs, right? Whatever it is. Most of the time when we do what we do, if we had known what we know now, we'd do it differently. So most of the things that you're experiencing on your body, with your body, right, that are manifesting in your body now are resultant from things you did not know back then. If you'd known differently, you'd have done differently. Keeping that in mind, that creates a sense of compassion. But when you do this exercise, you can, hopefully, if you stay with it, don't get afraid, right, and keep returning to it. It creates a sense of compassion, a sense of love, a sense of, you know what, body, we're in this together. And given the opportunity, I might not have chosen you. But the truth is that given the opportunity, you might not have chosen me. Either way, we're in it together and we have to do it together. So I forgive you if you can forgive me. And I'm going to do the best that I can to love you because I understand that you're doing the best that you can to love and take care of me, right? Because that's what your body is doing every day. It's doing the best that it can with what you give it to continue your breathing processes and your digestion processes and your detoxification of your body and continue growing hair and all of those things. It's doing those things to try and help you survive. So stay with it. Continue working the process. If it gets too overwhelming, stop there. Right? So you've done your process on your thighs, and it's like, okay, whew, this is way overwhelming. I can't do any more today. Then don't. Come back to it later. This is a process. This is an exercise that you can use anytime you want, whenever you're feeling a little bit of unlove or unlike towards your body. Whenever you do decide to stop, right, show some gratitude. Like I said, your body is the only one you ever get. It's taken you everywhere you've ever been, and it's lasted this long. So take a moment to appreciate it. It's doing the very best that it can. When you feel more comfortable in your skin and more comfortable with your skin, then you can move forward with addressing those external cues that you've been experiencing and receiving. Externally, body shaming can come from family, friends, coworkers, acquaintances, trolls, and complete and total strangers. Anytime this happens, there are basically three things that you can do. You can confront the comment or incident head on. You can ignore the person or walk away. We've all experienced a time when someone had something to say about our bodies. Sometimes it's direct, and sometimes the words are spoken behind our back when the presumption is that we can't hear them. Sometimes family members who genuinely mean well have no idea how hurtful their words are. Best friends may make well-intended comments, but aren't aware of how their words are being received. Conversely, trolls may make beached whale or thunder thighs comments just to get a rise out of social media content creators. No matter where the feedback, the comments, or the shaming is coming from, it's very simple. If you decide to confront the body shaming message head on, you can simply say, I don't appreciate your comment, or my body is not here to please you. Or if it's something specific, you can say something specific, like, I like my freckles, or my curly hair, or whatever. Thank you very much. I think it's important to realize and understand, of course, that the truth is that your body is not here to please anyone else. In fact, it's not even really here to please you. It's here to help you survive. So you can ignore the comments. You can refuse to give the trolls the attention they want. Or you can allow well-meaning family members and friends the opportunity to reflect on their comments. Or you can simply turn and walk away. Often, your course of action and how you deal with this body shaming is going to depend on the situation and your judgment and where you are with this internal process of dealing with your body shame. If you choose to do nothing and simply walk away, be sure that you don't allow that other person's comments to infiltrate and erode your hard-won compassion for yourself. Don't let it turn into self-punishment. So what constitutes self-punishment? Self-punishment is anything we do to ourselves to pay for or make right some behavior or perceived transgression. This can be in response to seeing an increase in the numbers on the scale. It could be for breaking the rules or guidelines of some plan that we're on. And in fact, we might consider going on any sort of restrictive diet that we use for the purposes of losing weight as a form of self-punishment, because generally it's something you'll force yourself to do that's basically going to be painful, that's in response to feeling bad about the number on the scale or the size of your pants. But it's interesting to think about and ask, where did we learn these self-punishment behaviors? Because for some of us, When we participate in some unplanned eating behaviors, it's very easy for us to slip into this role of the parent or the authority figure and start giving ourselves a stern talking to for not doing what we're supposed to do. After all, that's the very method our actual parents and caregivers and teachers and authority figures used to keep us in line. We may take it a step or two further and attempt to punish ourselves with further restrictions, deprivation, and denial of desires in other areas, like withholding companionship and time with friends because of those trespasses, or punish ourselves with hours at the gym or on the treadmill. Many times we treat our self-labeled bad behavior the same way our parents would have treated it, especially if that's always how they handled those kinds of things with you. If you were exposed to body bullies or bullying when you were a child or teen, you may have internalized those thoughts and words and phrases, and you may take your dislike of certain aspects of your body and kick it up a notch to really make yourself feel bad by bullying yourself. We do this simply because as children, feeling bad about something like disappointing your parents or hurting someone or their feelings was often enough to make you think twice before you did the same offending action again. The pain of upsetting your parents or getting sent to your room and not being allowed to play was enough to keep you in line. Now, as an adult, you've gotten used to these kinds of pains, and going to your room for the evening and not coming out is actually more of a vacation than a punishment. And at this point, these methods of punishment are really no longer useful or beneficial. In fact, they're probably more harmful than anything. They certainly aren't effective. Think about the last time you ate cake and felt bad about it, or had pie or ice cream and felt guilty, or the last time you made yourself go to the gym or sit in the sauna for 2 hours as punishment for your eating behavior. Has it kept you from falling prey to those behaviors again? Not likely. Because if feeling bad about it was enough to keep you from eating it, emotional eating wouldn't be a problem, right? The problem is that the physical forms of punishment we use aren't that effective either. Using exercise as a form of punishment only teaches you that exercise isn't and shouldn't be fun. And exercise and functional fitness should be a part of a loving self-care routine, not a form of punishment. And more restriction and deprivation can lead to more intense cravings and urges, which, if you're likely to give into, will only further perpetuate this punishment loop. And as far as eating off plan or more than you intended, truth is, the damage has already been done. The punishment has already been exacted. Anything your body didn't need at the time you ate it will be converted for long-term storage. Isn't that punishment enough? So what do we do about it in this self-punishing behaviors? Unless you own a time machine, and if you do, email me because I want to talk to you, there isn't really anything that you can do to make up for a cheat or overeating or a binge eating episode. No amount of time at the gym or calorie restriction after the fact is going to change the reality of what's already been done. What's done is done, so we just have to move on. And moving on doesn't mean wallowing in guilt and regret or trying to make up for our bad choices with hours of exercise. These types of compensatory behaviors don't really bring us any closer to our health and wellness goals. In fact, they're likely to push us further from them. Instead, we must learn to see our slips and cheats and unplanned eating for what they truly are. Learning experiences that are opportunities for us to learn more about ourselves. Every misstep holds the information we need to avoid the trap next time. Contrary to what you might think, it's not time to reflect on how much of a loser you are. It's an opportunity to see what events, situations, or triggers make you stray from your intended path. Is it people? Is it places? Or is it a reaction to stress or some other emotion? Each time brings you the opportunity to figure out just what you need to do and look out for in the future. When you release the rules and guidelines and labels around food, there's no need to punish yourself for how you eat. If you use your guilt and regret about letting yourself down prevent you from making unintended decisions, then there's no need to punish yourself. When you find a place of love and caring and compassion for your body and take ownership for whatever your part is and how it's manifesting for you now, you find yourself less likely to choose to punish yourself. And in fact, you may find more ways and reasons to show caring and love to yourself. Ultimately, when you love and care about yourself, you'll find yourself a lot less interested in punishing yourself and being mean to yourself and berating yourself and talking down to yourself. And that's really where we want to go, where we're trying to get to, is to a place of love and compassion and acceptance and allowing for ourselves, because we're all human and we're none of us perfect. And we each just want to do the best that we can to enjoy the journey that we're on for as long as we're on it. I hope that this podcast has been beneficial for you today. I know it was a little bit long, and I hope that that was okay. If you have any questions or concerns or want to talk to me about your body shame, your body bullying, how you are dealing with and thinking about your current diet or lifestyle choices, or if you want to talk to me about how you may be punishing yourselves and how to get out of it, I would love to talk to you. You can reach me on Facebook at fb.me/Coach Christy R. Hall, or at my website, www.christyrhall.com. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon.